Today, we're figuring out which AI culling tool is actually the best one for sports photographers. This isn't about which software has the most features. Both of these tools use AI to cull your photos, but they aren't built for the exact same photographer. Pick the wrong one and you could spend your whole season wasting time culling through images. So today I'll be putting FilterPixel and Aftershoot head to head to see which program and software is the best for sports photographers. I'll be using photos from the same game, from the same folder on my computer, the exact same computer, to see which one is best. And by the end, we're going to see which program I actually trust the most as a sports photographer. Before we get into this test, I want to be completely transparent with you all. This video is in partnership with FilterPixel. However, I will be giving my results completely honestly and completely unbiasedly, putting the two head to head. Being in the photography industry, we need to trust one another. So all of my results will be honest and unbiased. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. I will be taking the exact same game, the exact same photos, from the same folder on the same computer and putting them into each software and seeing which one comes out best, which one is the most productive, which has the best results, and which one is quickest. So let's break down each category. You should have a scorecard on the screen now, and we're breaking up into 6 different categories that best represent the best software to use. So the first one will be speed. How quick can I take my photos from my folder and put them into the software and start culling? So we'll have that on screen at some point in the next little bit. Second, and the number 2 category, is burst handling. Which software can take a 10 to 15 image burst and give me the best photo out of them? And the next one is pretty simple but very, very important. It's sports culling accuracy. Which software chose the best photos based on where the action is, where the face is, in focus, out of focus, which one has the best sports culling accuracy? Number 4 will be editing. Both softwares offer an in-house AI editing. Personally for myself, I use Lightroom. However, I want to look and see which software is going to be best for editing moving forward. Number 5 will be my workflow exports. So which software is best at exporting into a certain file type, or maybe it's something like Lightroom or Photoshop to take out some unneeded pieces. And finally, another really important part is price per shoot. Which software is the best bang for your buck? So as I previously mentioned, I shoot sports, so everything in this video will be judged by a sports photographer through the view and the eye of a sports photographer. Before I actually run the test, let's make a prediction. If we're judging these tools purely on paper, Aftershoot seems to be built around going deep. It's heavily focused on photographers shooting things like weddings and portraits, where culling, editing, and retouching can live inside one larger workflow. And that's not a bad thing. If you're a sports photographer, you probably want your software to understand things like faces, expressions, eyes, and consistency across a massive gallery. But sports photography is a completely different problem. I'm not necessarily looking for a person smiling at the camera, because that would be weird. I'm looking for a moment. Is the player actually making the play? Is the ball in the right spot? Is the athlete's body position interesting? Is the face visible? Are the eyes open? And is a certain frame better than the 15 photos I took before and after it? So that's where we put Aftershoot against FilterPixel. FilterPixel feels like it has more high volume, fast deadline culling. Sports, concerts, conferences, same day events, and potentially weddings too. So I had to simplify the difference. Aftershoot is going deep into the specific type of photography workflow. FilterPixel is going wider across different types of high volume photography. Neither approach is necessarily wrong, but here's the problem. Sports is not weddings. And that distinction matters more than a feature list, because AI culling ultimately comes down to what the software thinks a good photograph looks like. A wedding trained model might prioritize smiling face, eye contact, and expression, but in my world, the best frame might have a hidden face behind the talent. So, for me as a sports photographer, I would assume that FilterPixel will win based on its culling ability for high volume and quick turnaround. Alright, well, let's run the test. So this is from a real game, not a folder I specifically created for this video. We've got 762 frames in total, as you can see here. I'm taking this exact folder and putting it into both programs. No removing the bad photos beforehand, no hand selecting the best bursts, no giving either program a head start. Both are going to get the exact same starting point. So let's put them on side by side on screen now. We have FilterPixel and we have Aftershoot. And let's see which one is quicker and which one gets a better rating. So right off the bat, we have both of our FilterPixel and Aftershoot imports going in now. You can see on screen. The first thing I noticed is both programs ask you what kind of shoot it is, which I'm assuming will allow AI to determine how to cull the photos. But Aftershoot takes longer to import and then cull, whereas FilterPixel imports basically instantly, and then you're able to move on to a cull. The nice thing about FilterPixel as well is I'm able to name my project file, and that's the way everything keeps organized. Aftershoot, there wasn't as much depth in terms of how we organize our workflow. Okay, so now you can see on screen that both programs have imported and culled through the same images. So a little bit of feedback. FilterPixel was quicker. Timer was about 5.5 minutes, whereas Aftershoot took closer to 8. So in terms of speed and trying to have a quick turnaround, fast delivery, I think FilterPixel just edges this one. I would give them a 9 out of 10 for speed and culling speed, and Aftershoot I would give them a 6 out of 10. All right, now we'll move on to burst accuracy. So now we're here and we're looking at the second category, which is burst accuracy. So I looked through the culling of both of the images on both softwares, and the first thing I noticed right away is Aftershoot, it is kind of hard to find where the bursts are actually stored and where they are found. Whereas FilterPixel, it's super easy, you can just double click and then it'll open it up for you. The other thing that puts FilterPixel way ahead of Aftershoot in the burst aspect is the fact that FilterPixel has an AI analysis of each image within a burst. So it gives you stuff like composition and facial recognition and that kind of stuff to show which is the better image within a burst. So ultimately for me, when it comes down to burst accuracy within culling photos, FilterPixel has a more accessible and easier to navigate system, and therefore FilterPixel gets a 8 out of 10 on the burst accuracy, and Aftershoot gets a 4. Only because, again, it's hard to find the burst feature within Aftershoot, whereas FilterPixel, it's there and it's ready to go. Let's move on to the third category. Okay, so now we are looking at our third category, which is cull accuracy. So again, we have both a FilterPixel and Aftershoot on screen now, and basically what I'm looking for is what are the sharper shots? Which program does better at selecting the sharper shots and the shots that I will actually use down the line? So which have soft frames, which have sharp ones, which one picks the peak action? Again, for me, FilterPixel has the AI analysis, which makes it really quick and easy to pick my favorite photos, as well as it has a best and rejected folder on the right side. Aftershoot is good, but I do just find that FilterPixel edges it over the fact that their interface is a bit more easy to understand, and it's way more simple and organized and just runs cleaner. So for that one, I would give FilterPixel a 8 out of 10, and I would give Aftershoot a 7 out of 10. So let's move on to the editing portion now. Okay, so looking now at the editing, again, we have both on screen now. The first thing I notice with FilterPixel is you have AI profiles on the right-hand side that you can then apply, and then scrolling further down, you can crop and straighten your images. For me, though, Aftershoot wins on this one by quite a little bit. You can see with Aftershoot, you can not only add presets or profiles, but you can also adjust to each little parameter, whether that be white balance, lighting, presence, curves, HSL. Different things can be adjusted similarly to something like Lightroom. So for me on this one, I give FilterPixel a 7 out of 10, and I would give Aftershoot a 9 out of 10 for the editing. Now let's move on to the exports. Okay, so in terms of exports for both FilterPixel and Aftershoot, they are both very similar in the fact that you can export into a JPEG, into a PNG, but you can also integrate it and go directly into Lightroom. So if you're not somebody that wants to use the AI editing, for both softwares, you can then bring it into Lightroom and do the editing yourself. So in that case, since they're both very similar, I would give them both a 7 out of 10. Not too much to complain about there, but they both work very well and continue that workflow through right from the importing of images to the culling and right to the editing. So let's move on to our last category, which is price. Okay, so moving on to our last category for all of the ways we're breaking down each of these softwares. So first we're going to look at the pricing of FilterPixel. So FilterPixel has their Pro bundle for $50 a month, and that includes 6 deep culls, and you can do all of your exporting with unlimited amount of photos. So that's a great price in my opinion. Aftershoot has something similar, but it is $55, so you're going to pay a bit more money and you're going to have less freedom with how you edit your photos, as well as how you cull them and bring them in. So looking at it in terms of which is going to be your bang for your buck, FilterPixel is going to win every time, and so I'll give them a 9 out of 10 for the pricing, and for Aftershoot I'll give them a 7 out of 10. It's important to note that there are different tiers for both softwares. However, if we're going to look at and compare the same one, Aftershoot is slightly more expensive. Alright, so if we look back at the scorecards for both FilterPixel and Aftershoot, we can see that FilterPixel does quite well compared to Aftershoot, at least in the sports photography world. So let's go over it really quick. So FilterPixel for speed, it did a 9, Aftershoot did a 6. For FilterPixel for burst handling was an 8, whereas Aftershoot was a 4. Cull accuracy for FilterPixel was an 8, Aftershoot was a 7. Editing for FilterPixel was a 7, and Aftershoot editing was a 9. And then we have export for FilterPixel and Aftershoot were both a 7 because they both work basically the same. And then FilterPixel for price we give a 9, and Aftershoot we give a 7. So adding that all up, we ultimately see that for at least sports photography, FilterPixel is the way to go. Now, if you're somebody that does wedding and portrait photography, Aftershoot I would say is probably better in terms of the little editing techniques you can do through Aftershoot. But if you're somebody that's doing sport events, high volume, quick turnaround, then FilterPixel is definitely what sells it for me. If you're doing wedding, portrait, and sports, I would still stick with FilterPixel, especially because you can integrate right into Lightroom. For FilterPixel, I think I would fix their editing software and the way that they use AI editing. I know that's something they're going to be working on, so I think that's what's going to take them to the next level. For Aftershoot, I think it'd be nice to have a bit more of a accessible and easy to read interface. But don't take my word for it. FilterPixel gives you 4 free projects. Run your next game through both and tell me if I'm wrong. I'll have the link in the description of how you can access FilterPixel. And let's see which one you prefer. Let me know in the comments if I got any of these wrong or if you had any difference of opinion. And until next time.